Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is August 20th CAC meeting. And today we're going to be talking with, we have a guest speaker, Victor Duron, and I'm going to introduce him in a second. But I want to get started with letting you know that, as usual, in DVU meetings, we need you to use your interpretation globe at the bottom of your screen here. And if you are English speaking, you need to choose English. If you are Spanish speaking, you need to choose Spanish. And then we will have the simultaneous translation happening on the Spanish channel, as well as we have slides in English and Spanish. So those of you who are wanting to see the slides in Spanish, you'll be able to see that, and we'll be showing the slides in English. Let's see, I forget now. Amy, I think you were going to say that in Spanish for me, right?
Gracias. Habrá interpretación al español, entonces si solamente habla inglés, favor de escoger el canal de inglés abajo en su pantalla. Si está en un computador, verá ya sea unos 3 puntos que dicen más o un globo que dice interpretación. Escojan el canal de español para escuchar la interpretación. Igual cuando comparten las diapositivas, tendrá la opción de ver las diapositivas ya sea en inglés o en español. Y si está en un computador, podrá ver esto en la parte superior de la pantalla. Gracias.
Okay, thank you. Make sure I got mine on the right way. Here we go. Perfect. All right, so as long as you chose your language at the bottom, we are set to go. Well, welcome. I'm Darlene Hansen, and I am the training coordinator and person leading the empowerment team. The empowerment team leads and hosts the Communication Access Connect every month on this third Tuesday of the month. And I want to, before I get started here into our presentation, I want to make sure you guys meet the rest of our empowerment team. So, Nina, you want to pop in?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is, so great that we're gathered here yet again with such a great guest, which I won't jump on that intro. But my name is Nina Spiegelman, and I am the policy director for Disability Voices United. And communication and access to communication supports is among our absolutely highest policy priorities at DVU. So these discussions, these interactions we have every month are really key to helping us do our advocacy around communication issues. So this is going to be a really great one. And thank you to Darlene and our guest.
Great, thanks, Nina. And then I have another member of our team, and his name is William. William, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is William Del Rosario, and I am an intern with DVU. I'm a Hispanic Filipino male in my 20s with short black hair, brown eyes, and I wear glasses. I have autism, apraxia, am a multi-modal communicator and use augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, to communicate via typing on my iPad. Thank you for making the time to be here today.
Thanks, William. And I'm sorry for my distraction. I had everything ready to go, and then Google decided I needed to retry. And now I can't get back in because I'm trying to multitask here. Okay, I'm going to focus and just do it from my memory. Thank you. I did not give my description like William always reminds me to. So I'm, like I said, Darlene Hansen. I am a white Caucasian, however you want to call that, woman with shoulder-length gray hair. I wear red framed glasses. And I have a multi-patterned blouse on over a black shirt, I guess you call it, with a gray background. So thank you. All right. Let's see if there's anything else I need to say. I don't think so.
There's something I need, Darlene. I cannot find the Spanish slides. So if Victor or you can send them to me so I can share them.
Probably not going to be me because it keeps telling me I can't get in. So if someone can send
Victor, do you mind resending me your slides? And I'll be happy to share them.
Yes, they are. They should be in your inbox as soon as the internet spirits.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So go ahead and move forward and I will be able to share them.
Okay. So I am now in, 1 second, sorry. Okay. Anyways, today we are excited, and hopefully you all are excited too, because we have Victor Duron with us, and Victor is from the Master Plan Committee and from the Department of Rehab. And you can explain, if you need to, Victor, how that works in the different hats that you wear. But today, we asked him to get involved in our group, and he said, hey, this is a great opportunity for us because we're doing the master plan and we're gathering information. And we want to hear from the communicators and those who have access needs to communication. So that's what today's all about. As usual, we have the chat open for those of you who want to put your any typed communication in there. If you want to speak, either with your device or with your voice, please raise your hand, and we will get to the questions at the end or in the different segments that we have. And this is definitely meant to be an opportunity to participate. I'm kind of thinking of it as a town hall. I don't know if that's what you think of it as, but that's what in today's time, I'm thinking of it as a town hall. So let's get involved and let Victor know what we need and what we're thinking about. So I'm going to bring you on, Victor.
Thank you, Darlene. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to all of you for inviting me to your space and giving me some time to meet you, and most importantly, listen and hear from you. So I'm going to begin. I'll share a little bit more introduction of myself, and then I'm going to give an overview about what the Master Plan for Developmental Services is. But then I really hope that most of our time will be spent hearing from you and getting your advice, hearing your stories, getting your wisdom on how we can make this a really successful effort. So again, my name is Victor Duron. I use he, him pronouns. I am a middle-aged Latino man, and Judy just gave me a look. So I'm going to say I am a youthful middle-aged. There we go. A youthful middle-aged man. And my day job, as I like to call it, is I work for the Department of Rehabilitation. And mostly my work there has been with independent living centers. Some of you may be familiar with them. So a lot of my work has been rooted in the disability rights movement and the history of disability rights. It's very important to me. And I'm very excited to have been asked by the Secretary of Health and Human Services to work with the Department of Developmental Disabilities on this effort. And part of what I share in this is that I don't work for the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and I don't work for the regional centers. I'm here as a person who is familiar with the disability movement, but who's not of the DD system, to help in an effort to bring the voices of the community together and figure out a plan for how we can make this system work better for everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully I stalled long enough for the internet gods to send over the other PowerPoint. Can folks see my screen? Okay, and then do we need to pause and give instructions to folks on how to view the Spanish version? Or do
That's perfect. I can do that really quickly. So what you should see on the top of your screen right now, so you'll see the normal close your window, expand your window, and then there's two screens right above everybody's little floating head. On the left side, it says Spanish screen. On the right side, it says Victor Duron screen. To switch between the two, you just click on them. So if you're looking for the Spanish slides, you'll want to click right on the left. And then the English on the right side. Is everybody able to see and access that? Great, we got some thumbs up, Victor, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the second slide. So first I'll start with what is our vision for this plan? What even is this thing that we're doing? So our vision is to create a plan for the whole developmental services systems to provide equitable, consistent, and accessible services to all Californians with developmental disabilities. And I was very intentional in emphasizing those words: equitable, consistent, and accessible. Furthermore, our intention is that this plan will be created with and by the diverse voices of all of our communities, which includes family members of people receiving services, the service providers, policy experts, folks that are experts in developmental disabilities and services, but most importantly, centered in the voices of people with lived experience, the people who are or should be receiving services from this system. And our intention is to have this plan completed by March of 2025, so about 7 months from now. And one thing I've been saying in many of these meetings is that this work that we're doing is happening way too fast and way too slow. What I mean by that is March of 2025 is a very short amount of time to thoughtfully create a plan, to bring all the voices together that we need to bring, and to do something that's very thoughtful, intentional, centers community. But at the same time, it's too slow because we know that people need help today, that people will benefit from the changes that we're trying to make today, and that people today are saying, you need to move faster and make this system better for me. So I always mention that to people because it's a balance, and I ask all of you to be a partner to me in finding that right balance and moving too fast and too slow. Equity is really at the center of this work that we're doing. We recognize, we the state, we the systems, we the communities recognize that the developmental services system does not give the same results to everyone, depending on what community you come from, depending on your background, your culture, your language access, your disability, right? Your economic situation. We know that different people experience different qualities and access to service. And so equity is at the core of what we're doing here. So to support equity, there's a number of strategies that we've put in place. One, of course, is making sure that everything we do is centering the voices of the community, voices like yours. Two is we're developing a variety of tools to help support equity in all of the recommendations that we develop for the master plan. So as we develop recommendations for the master plan, these tools will help us ask questions like, who's being left behind? Who do we need to hear from? Who will benefit the most and the least from the recommendations we're making? We've also brought a team of subject matter experts to create an internal equity team that's going to help us and be consultants to us when we have questions about how we can do better with respect to equity. And again, very importantly, we are intentionally going out to forums like this one to hear from people, especially people from diverse communities and historically marginalized communities. So let me share a little bit about our work so far. Our committee has met 4 times since March. In fact, our 5th meeting is tomorrow. So for those of you who are able to attend, I know many of you have already registered. We welcome you. There will be both in-person and Zoom options for participating. In our meetings that we've had so far, we have identified our shared values for how we're going to do this work and our vision for this plan. We've talked about what equity means to us, and we've brainstormed different ways that we will make sure equity is centered in this plan. And most recently and most exciting is we've developed 5 work groups and brought in additional voices from diverse communities to expand those work groups in addition to the committee that was already established. And those 5 work groups are going to focus on 5 different areas to begin developing the recommendations that will populate the master plan. I've never worked with such a diverse and large stakeholder group. We have 37 members on our stakeholder committee. And when you include the additional work group members we've added across our 5 work groups, we have 99 individuals from all backgrounds, race, ethnicity, disability, gender identity, geography, immigrant language status, just an incredible diversity of expertise and voices that are going to help us do this work. And we are really committed to transparency. So all of the work that we're doing, all of our meetings, all of our notes are recorded and posted in multiple languages on our website, which is up on the screen, but that I would encourage the DVU team to share the website out with all of you if you don't have it already. So next, I'm going to provide an overview of the 5 work groups, and then I'm going to take a deep breath and do a lot of listening. And I want to really hear from you about what is on your mind with respect to these work groups and what they should be thinking about as they develop their recommendations. So the first work group, the way that they have described themselves is the first work group is about individuals and families experiencing person-centered service systems that they trust, right? So it's about the experience of the individual. It's about the experience of the family. And it's making sure that their experience is individualized to their needs and that they feel like they trust the system that is providing them services. Now, whereas work group 1 is focused on the individual and the families, their experience, work group 2 is about the systems that provide services. So the way work group 2 describes itself is individuals receive timely, inclusive, and seamless services across all service systems. And you'll notice I say systems, plural, because yes, the regional centers are the core, but as we all know, there are so many different systems that we have to engage with to get services. There's the healthcare system, there's the educational system, there's the various social services systems, right? And oftentimes when we try to get our needs met, it can feel like we're being sent from one system to another. So again, while group 1 is really about the person and the family and their experience, work group 2 is about how can we get the systems to do a better job of working together to provide people what they need. Work group 3 is about individuals and their families receiving services from high quality, stable, and person-centered workforce. So whereas group 1 is about the family and the individual, group 2 is about the systems, group 3 is about those employees, the staff that work at the services providers, the service coordinators, the individual services providers, right? Those individuals that are hired by the systems to provide services to the families. And we know that in many communities, there's high turnover, there's challenges recruiting and retaining high quality staff. We also know that often the best services are provided by people with lived experience. And so how can we do a better job of creating career pathways for people with developmental disabilities to serve each other, right? So work group 3 is about that workforce. And I'll just say that each of these work groups has a facilitator and co-chairs. I'm the co-chair for work group 3. It's very personally interesting to me. I started my career in nonprofit and living in San Jose, living in the Silicon Valley and thinking, oh my gosh, I've made a vow of poverty working in nonprofit and living in the Silicon Valley. And so to me, it is very personally important that we are able to hire and retain and fairly compensate high quality staff to do this very important work. Group 4, individuals and their families experience consistent, transparent, accountable, and data-driven systems that focus on outcomes. So group 4 is really about two main things. One, accountability, right? How can we make sure that the systems that provide services are held accountable for their responsibilities to all of you, to all of us, to our family members, to our communities, right? And we also know that these systems collect extraordinary amounts of data. How are we using that data, and how is that data resulting in high quality outcomes? And then the last group, in some ways, is kind of the most difficult to wrap our heads around, because it's a couple of different things. So broadly speaking, group 5 is about individuals being entitled to lifelong services with adequate resources. So what this one's really about is, we know that there's a lot of resources out there. Are we fully taking advantage of all of them? Are we doing everything we can to make sure that there's enough funding, there's enough resources, that the budget is strong enough to provide services for everyone for the entirety of their life? And we know there's opportunities that we could be taking and that we need to explore to bring more resources into the system. So work group 5 is really about, what innovative things can we explore to bring new services and new resources into this system? Before we move on, one last thing I'll share that I'm very excited about is that while each of these work groups has a facilitator who is a staff with the master plan team, really they are being led by 2 co-chairs. And these co-chairs are members of the work groups, members of the community, and all 5 of the work groups are co-chaired by an individual with lived experience, by an individual who themselves has a developmental disability and is eligible for services through the system and has firsthand experience, because we recognize that having those voices not just heard, but heard in leadership roles is key to the success of this effort. So I know there's going to be overlap between the different groups, and that's totally okay. If it becomes more helpful for our conversation, I can go back to the slide that has all 5 work groups listed on it. But I think to get us started, we can go group by group and see how that goes, and start getting your input on what we should be thinking about. I have some questions up for each slide to help you in your thinking if you're not exactly sure what kind of feedback to give, but you don't have to stick to these questions if you have other kinds of feedback or comments. But the questions I put here as examples are, for work group 1, that individuals and families experience person-centered service systems they trust. What has been your experience when seeking services? What would best meet your access needs to experience person-centered services and feel trust in the system? And what else do you think this work group should consider when developing their recommendations? So DVU team, how do you want to take public comment? Do you want to facilitate? Do you want me to keep an eye out for raised hands? Shall we read the chat comments out loud? What is your preferred process?
So we can keep, we'll keep an eye on people raising their hands. That happens usually. And then also we keep an eye on the chat for you. So if you have prepared something, or if this strikes, down your road, please share it. Right now, so far, what has been said in the chat, and I'll read that out loud to just get us thinking and started, is Stephanie says, Autism Society of Inland Empire is working on communication across the Inland Empire, including law enforcement, behavioral and mental health, education, etc. Huge need for resources for our population with severe behaviors. And I don't know if that applies to this one or number 4, but I'm sure there's overlap on many of our stories, right? So I think that's she's expressing there's a need, and that they do have a project working on it, working with their community in the Empire. I'll go on with a couple more here. Otto says, horrible experience, try to access services, no providers available or vendors have a waiting list. So waiting lists are a problem, yes. And no providers available. I'm waiting for anything else, but I'm also thinking about things I've heard on this topic. Mark says, how will people who are unable to participate in Zoom meetings be included in the process?
So that's a really good question, Mark. If there are individuals who have access barriers to participating on a Zoom call, well, one of the things that we do is on our website, if folks have accommodation needs or access needs, we invite them to reach out and let us know what those are. If there's a specific barrier that people who want to participate but for whom Zoom is inaccessible, you are absolutely welcome to contact me directly and let me know what that barrier is. And if you have a recommended accommodation that we should put in place, I'm very, very open to that. And also, if there is a focus group or roundtable or listening session similar to what we're doing today, that you would recommend that we think about for individuals who have a particular access need, would be very happy to have that conversation and see if we can organize that.
Right, that's good to know. Tina says it takes a long time to hire personal assistants or change from one FMS to another and to find FMS to take large budgets, budgets. Hard to change from one way to another way because of wait lists. And Michelle's kind of on that theme too. Time between service approval and being able to access the service seems very slow. Tina went on to say, not enough consistency between regional centers and some directives are too ambiguous. Yeah, that's kind of another theme, right? Is the uniqueness of each of the 21 regional centers makes, defining the system, I think, a challenge sometime, and then even working within it. Tracy says, we just experienced medical fraud. This has shaken our trust. How can individuals trust that providers are behaving appropriately when they don't have advocates? Also, 2+ years at UCLA dentist wait list, USC shut down their list. Where do we go? And Victor, are you familiar with the process for people in the dental needs?
I was just about to say, literally on Friday, I had did another stakeholder engagement group where they brought up the significant challenges in finding dental care providers who will accept the benefits and who will take clients that are DD services recipients.
And the other side of that I often hear is that a lot of people, in order to receive the appropriate dental services, need to actually have a more significant experience and have be medicated to go under, as we call it. And that holds kind of a unique status, when yet it's their life, and it always has to be. And so they always have to go through the documentation and the asking and this whole, every time, a step-by-step process to identify that, oh yeah, this person really does need to go under, when every year in their whole life they've had to go under. So it never changed. But yet they have to go back and repeat the process of letting the system know that again. That's kind of a barrier, I think. Let's see, I got a couple of things that are coming in Spanish too. I want to make sure I get. Also, we're talking about cavities and bridges, etc. Yeah. Elena says, are particularly hard to find dentists that sedate patients. Right, that's another thing. Hospital, Tracy put in hospital debitry. I don't know if that's a real thing or if you're just making that up. Tracy, it says debt industry. Carmen wrote in Spanish, and I don't know, here's a translation. We need the regional centers to have the same POS. They are not different. Does that make sense to you, Victor?
I think what it's getting at is consistency of services across the regional centers.
Yep. Lizette says, I'm fighting the system trying to get Invisalign braces for my autistic son. Inland Regional Center is denying because he's a minor and IRC is not a support service under SDP. I will take the case to the Superior Court. Hearing was yesterday. I don't know what that means, that IRC is not a support service under SDP. But okay, I'm not sure what that means. Do you know what that means, Victor?
Can you say more?
Lizette, if you have more on that, that would be good. Irene said, good afternoon. I hope that with this big change, it is really a plan for the benefit of the customer in every sense of the word, so that they have a quality of life and that their rights are enforced. Tiffany says, speech, PT, and OT for adult is not available. They are geared for little ones. Yep. And Deborah says, I just ran into the lack of dentists yesterday trying to receive services for my daughter. We were told we may need to travel over an hour to get her teeth cleaned. We live in the Bay Area. Wow. Bella says, or Isabella, otherwise known as Bella, the support I've received have come in without communication or AAC training. So she
just wrote another one. If you scroll to the end real quick, Darlene.
Yes, I've just captured that one, and that's a very powerful statement. If they don't know how to support my communication, then I am silenced.
Yep.
Very powerful.
Well said, Bella. Yes. And William here, William is raising his hand. I'm going to bring you in, William. We're on. I think you should be on already. Where are you, William?
I think we're on. You hear us?
Okay, there you go, William.
This summer, Paris hosted the Olympics as athletes across the world participated in the Games. It was exciting cheering for Team USA as our Olympians set record times and achieved their personal bests, bringing home 126 medals. Imagine qualifying, training, and doing your personal best every day only to be told the race that you are in will have false start after false start, time delays, or be cancelled altogether because the language you speak or the way you communicate is not yet recognized or supported by the Olympic Committee? My name is William Del Rosario, and I am a person served by Regional Center Orange County. I have autism and I am a multi-modal communicator who types to communicate. It is estimated that approximately 25 to 30% of individuals with autism are also non-speaking. What is difficult to understand is that so many like myself are not able to receive the communication supports or qualified staff that will allow us to become our personal best. I have been waiting for Regional Center to staff the services in my IPP for 4 years. Just about as long since the last Summer Olympic Games. For most of my life, I've been given assessments to prove my need to communicate using augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC. While I'm happy to say my scores were high enough for me to qualify, the timelines in implementing my services have left me sidelined. As you look at the master plan, I would like to propose that communication and the supports a person needs to access their communication modality of choice come first. Simply providing a communication device is not enough. Owning an iPad doesn't make you a communicator. We must consider training for the person as well as training for the service providers they will need to support their communication across environments. I will also ask that the master plan includes concrete timelines that will hold regional centers accountable to implement services without delay. Telling someone they qualify for services and having them wait for 4 years or more is the same as making the Olympic team, but telling the athlete that they can't compete until the next games. And we count on you to get timely communication access in place for all regional center consumers sooner, rather than later. Let's not wait until the next summer games come to Los Angeles in 2028.
Thanks,
Thank
William.
you, William, what a wonderful analogy.
Thanks, William. Yeah, and I think all of you, the way you're talking, it really speaking to me in terms of, if you think about trusting the system, this is where the trust breaks down, right? Is on the waiting, the avoidance, the denial, whatever the barrier is defined as. That's every time that happens, the trust is breaking down, right? I see, was it you, Judy, that was raising your hand? Okay, so I see one in here from Oscar, though. I want to read this because I think this is really important too. All you guys are important, but I love this. Oscar says, how will work group 1 focus on the individual with IDD? I have been rejected eligibility or services needed due to their perceived high level of functionality, thus completely avoiding the obstacles that individuals faced. How can these individuals be assisted with achieving person-centered services? So I think what you're saying, Oscar, is that because of your high level of functionality that they've decided you have, you're having trouble getting services, or you're even being denied services. And yet you meet the other criteria for being a person who needs services, and you're living a life knowing that you need services. So I hear that happen a lot too for people. Judy.
I was wondering if you, Darlene, or William, or maybe Tommy Barmash could explain to Victor the difference between communication supports, communication devices, communication systems, some of that terminology, because I think it's important for him to appreciate that. Because regional centers, they think of it all as the same thing, and they think if they hand you an iPad, you're good. So maybe you could explain it. Tommy has said it to me in a way that always helps me understand it. So it's.
Yeah, sure. So Victor, what we're talking about here is the fact that there are individuals, especially individuals who experience a lot of dysregulation and motor control, who need, whether it be for their speech or their hands or their, whatever part of their body does not have good motor control. And so they need a trained person who understands when that's happening, how that's happening, and can then support them, however that might be. So, and in our groups, in our meetings, we have all different kinds of things we talk about. Sometimes we talk about revoicing, which means someone will say it for you because they understand your speech. We talk about having a trained communication partner themselves who sits with you and helps you stay regulated and attentive and engaged in the conversation while you communicate your thoughts. And those kinds of supports to augmentative communication are often, I mean, it might sound harsh, but I'm just going to use the word disregarded and not seen as value to the person. And then, like William says, without the, or Bella said, I'm silenced without that, right? So if I can remember, I have a client who was going to UCLA, and the professor said, oh wait, no, this is when he was, no, it was when he was UCLA. And he needed a support person to stay with him. Otherwise, he would be talking about Thomas the Tank Engine. Like he would only be talking about Thomas the Tank Engine. Now, he also now has a book deal with a very famous and high profile publishing company from London. So he has a foot in both worlds, right? So the accommodating office was saying, well, I don't know why you need that person sitting with you, so you can just go take the test on your own and she can wait outside the door. But without her sitting there, he'd be talking about Thomas the Tank Engine. He would not be able to participate in his tests. I mean, this was like college tests, right? That needed to be proctored. So they needed to understand that person sitting with him helped him stay regulated so that he could be the brilliant guy that he is. And that's just one example, but many of the folks that I work with and that are involved in Communication Access Connect have that kind of experience going on all the time. And a lot of times regional centers not acknowledging that that's an important piece of their life. And unfortunately, it's probably a high demand ongoing kind of a need, but it is a need. It would be like saying, well, today you can have your voice only for 6 months and then you're not going to have your voice anymore. Like that would not be okay, right? So that's kind of what Judy's talking about too. I see Ryan here. I want to bring Ryan in. Hang on, gotta bring Ryan in. Can we bring Ryan in? Ryan Kim?
Well, while we're bringing him in, I'm actually going to go back to the slide above that has the overview of the 5 work groups, just because I love this conversation and I think it's crossing across a lot of different areas. And so it might just be more helpful to have the slide with all 5 up so that people can talk to whichever one is resonating for them instead of trying to go one by one.
Perfect. Okay, Ryan, go for it.
My name is Ryan Kim. I am an artist with autism. I am a Korean American. I understand a lot about the world. I know more than I can express, and I really want to express my thoughts about it. However, I have difficulty expressing my thoughts or my intentions immediately in words. And my family is from Korea. I speak Korean at home. I have spoken English at the school and community. Because of my difficulty in expressive language, I get a lot of stress. I get anxious and angry. I do repetitive behavior and scream and cover my eyes and ears to express that I am angry and anxious. Since I have started using the AAC device, I can express the word or sentences that I want to say. I no longer scream or reduce to do repetitive behavior to express my thoughts. So, I am able to talk about my painting to people who like them. And it makes helping people understand my painting. It's really important for selling my paintings. I can eat with my family at the Korean restaurant, go to the shopping mall to shop also. Just as people with working difficulties use wheelchair to do activities for themselves in the community. I want to live in an environment where people with difficulty expressing their thoughts can communicate in the community members without inconvenience using AAC devices. To do so first, I think it is necessary to develop a more personalized app that AAC users can use conveniently. Second, it is necessary to promote AAC devices to increase understanding and eliminate prejudice among community members. When I express myself though in AAC devices, the community members often consternation or try avoid me. I believe that the community members need to have the same attitude toward AAC devices that they have same attitudes toward wheelchair user without being surprised and easy. I am glad to have the opportunity to share with DDS. Thank you.
And this is Ryan's art.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's an amazing artist.
And would it be possible for somebody to, I was trying to take notes, but if somebody, Ryan, your point is so important and valuable, and I want to make sure I capture it accurately. So if someone from the DVU team can, I think this is being recorded, can send me the notes or the recording, I want to make sure I capture this.
Yes. And Ryan, if you send me or any of us at DVU, if you have that like in a transcript file, just send it in a document and we'll forward it on to Victor for sure, just in your whole entirety. I see Tyler with his hand raised. I want to put Emma's words out here and then we're going to go to Tyler. Emma says, I wanted to tell you that I am one of the hundreds of Californians with non-speaking autism and always need a support communication partner with me to communicate effectively. This job position of communication partner is of utmost importance and essential to the typing non-speaking community. The communication partner needs to be fully trained and able to stay in their support position for a long time. This tragically does not often happen because there is little to no funding for training and the pay is far below the cost of living, so job turnover is frequent. There needs to be more funding for this critical job. Thanks, Emma.
And I want to add to what Emma said, it's not just about funding, but there are some regional centers who do not even validate the communication of these individuals that you're meeting. And therefore, they could find the funding, they're just not willing to provide it because they do not believe that this communication is valid. So there's no like service code called communication partner. It doesn't exist. So people make it up and use behavioral therapists or personal assistants, even though personal assistant rate is way too low for a qualified and trained communication partner. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of ableism that is embedded at regional centers. I mean, we talk a lot about the institutional racism at regional centers, but there's a lot of institutional bias against people with disabilities at regional centers as well. And this is particularly for people who are multimodal communicators. I think they face some of the greatest barriers.
Yes. Tyler, let's bring Tyler in. Do we see, there he is. Tell us what you know, Tyler, I think. Oh. Unmute. There we go. I think we still can't hear you, but you seem to be.
Can you, Tyler, say something? Now can you?
Yes.
Oh.
Go for it, Tyler.
I waited over 3 years for speech assessment. My regional center required because they do not accept my typing dispute. Despite the fact that I have ample evidence of authorship, they could not find a provider. In the end, they funded a speech assessment with someone who only works with children and had no AAC experience. That assessment resulted in a recommendation for behavior modification that was over a year ago. Apparently, they have no one provide service as if finish that sentence. As if keep going. Keep going. Modification. Over. You're gonna read it. They don't care about your spelling. Over. They have held my voice hostage for For years. 4 years. I have no trust. Trust. Get step up the left. Has fully human. I think you need to start reading here. As if behavior modification can overcome apraxia. They have held my voice hostage for years. I have no trust that they even see me as fully human. Over.
Yeah.
Over.
Where did Zoom go?
Thanks, Tyler, for
Over.
sharing that.
Over.
Is that all of it, Carolyn?
For now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tyler. You're right. You've had quite the experience with your communication, I know personally. So thanks for sharing that. I wanted to go up real quick here to, not because, but because Lizette said that she wanted to also share when it comes to DDS, it's a nightmare why the regulations are not change on state level so that all disabled kids or adults who are clients of regional center will qualify for the DDS waiver. By the way, I work for DPSS. If you need more information about your eligibility works, contact me. I see so many barriers in the system. I know how to fix it, but someone has to implement new regulations. And then there's Ryan's talking. I wanted to, thanks, Oscar. And remember, guys, this is all going to be printed out, but I want to step in real quick just because, Tyler, you made me think of what I had written up and I want to share it here. And say this with all my, oh, it's too big. Okay, 1 second. I'll just read it to you. Then I'll send it to you. So there's approximately $2 billion spent on behavioral services by regional center each year. And however, and the service of behavioral services typically includes somewhere in someone's profile the need for or the acknowledgement that behavior is communicative. And yet there are no communication services provided on those teams. Every once in a while, a behavior team might have a speech and language person who works to bring in like basic AAC, but the programs are generally, if not always, not communicatively based, even though all behaviors will say that behaviors are communicative. And when it comes to what I have thought about is, you know, you're collecting data, but there's nobody even talks about the need for communication. So there's all kinds of data collected on who needs behavioral support, how many hours are that, how much money is spent on that, how effective is that, but nobody is getting communication support. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And I know I'm a speech and language person, so I probably have a bias, but it doesn't make any sense to me that you would have a team saying that a behavior is happening because of communication challenges and not include the communication specialist. And it's, I mean, communication is often an unmet need for most of the individuals. And then, and so everyone I think needs communication services if they are in need of them. But it just seems like a huge brick on the head that a behavior person would need to have a team that includes a communication specialist if they're going to provide appropriate supports to those individuals. And to me, that would be an easy fix. And it would be a fix that I'm going to go out on a limb and say, address many issues that are happening because of the behaviors. You know, a behavior specialist is often inclined to look at communication as something that if you just can say that you're mad, or you can just say it's too loud in here. But so many times when you actually give a person communication, they are in pain, or they are stressed out and they can't talk about how they're stressed out, or maybe they can't live in a certain environment, or they can't tolerate a certain food, or there's underlying real reasons why these behaviors are happening, or just they don't feel acknowledged. That alone, right? And so teaching a team how to flip the table on that and acknowledge the individual, respect the individual, and provide the individual with a system and or support so that they can actually share their true feelings or their true wants or needs is going to help address the behavioral challenges. And yet we don't have, I think that's like, again, a brick on the head. Just makes common sense. If you're going to say something is communicatively based, you should have a communication specialist on the team. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. And it kind of pivots with what you were sharing, I think, Tyler.
And one thing I would say is, to Darlene and others, in addition to the issues, the concerns that come up, if you have ideas for what would change them or fix them or make them better, I really welcome that as well. I mean, at this point, we can't commit to what solutions will or won't be implemented, but we really, in addition to hearing what the issues are, would invite you to share what might be the way to address them. And so, maybe Darlene, you can help me model that a little bit. So you said when you were providing your input, that this could be an easy fix. If you were to describe, like in sort of pretty plain language, what we would change that would help address this, what might that look like?
So you could make it an automatic. If a person has behavioral support, and that behavioral team identifies that communication is the area of need to address the behaviors, you should have a communication specialist on that team. It's that simple to me. That team needs to include the communication specialist is the person who's going to understand how to make communication a valid, respected, and useful tool for the individual rather than just a replacement behavior, right? And so that's what this field, my field, brings to the table, and yet we're not invited. So I would say the easiest thing would to be just make that an automatic, that we're going to have to include and identify how communication support is going to be provided, and that comes in from a communication specialist.
Can I add something here? You'll see in the chat and in the audience that we have that there are Spanish speaking individuals and parents as well. And I just want to point out something, that the Latino community, the immigrant community generally, has been left behind in this revolution that exists in communication access. And the fact that this Communication Access Connect offers Spanish interpretation is in itself quite revolutionary, because first of all, regional centers don't even talk about communication access ever. They talk about fixing people through behavioral therapy. And if somebody's having a behavioral outburst, it has to be because they have behavioral problems and has nothing to do with the fact they can't communicate what they want to say and what may be hurting them or what they may be thinking about. So, but the fact is that when you have family members who speak languages other than English, this communication access just doesn't even exist in the realm of their lives. And these parents who've been talking in the chat in Spanish, they are on the cutting edge like I've never seen before historically in this field. And so it's exactly everything that Darlene just said, like, what do we need? And then add that extra layer of equity onto it, which is that immigrants, people of color, have no access to this kind of support. So I just wanted to mention that and to keep that equity framework in there.
Yeah.
Can I also just quickly lift up something in the chat? I love the way that William put it. If you have a heart condition, you don't go to a foot doctor. The same goes for communication. If you have a communication need, you don't go to a behaviorist, right? And I will share that in other stakeholder engagements I've been in, there's been a similar concept around behavioral health and how people with developmental disabilities who have a behavioral health or a mental health need get ping-ponged between the behavioral health system and the DD system, and how they're not the same. And, you know, sometimes people in the behavioral health space will say, oh, this is a DD issue, right? And it's not. And on the communication front, same thing, right? Well, here's the technology, but that's different than training, which is different than, you know, is this the right technology for me, which is different than, are my natural supports going to be helpful, right? So I really appreciate that input.
Yeah, thanks, William. William is always good for the perfect thought.
Well, you know, I said this to Judy the other day. The problem with her putting some of the really amazing, wonderful people in front of me that she keeps putting in front of me is I start thinking about who can steal them and put them in different leadership positions.
Go for it.
Marizella,
William deserves it.
I know, William's great. Marizella says that communicating is very important. She said this in Spanish, but here's the English. Communicating is very important. My daughter was given until she was 14, and now it's taking time for her to learn how to use it. I think her device is what she's talking about. And she gets frustrated because she can't communicate. Just because it's nonverbal doesn't mean she has nothing to say. Just because she's nonverbal doesn't mean she has nothing to say. And that's a theme that is always coming up. I was thinking too, Victor, about, this is another thing I hear all the time, is that oftentimes a child may be given a communication system at school, but then the regional center system is not giving any support to the family to learn how to use it. And the school system is only responsible for school. And then sometimes, that happens often. So having that acceptance that he should have the device, but regional centers, the home responsibility for funding, right? And so if that is true, then that family might need support on how to use that piece of technology and develop their communication support systems and strategies on equipment that they didn't purchase. Okay. What also can happen, although it doesn't happen all the time, is that, let's say this scenario, I'm probably making this up, but it might be true for someone, that they have a communication system that came from school, but then in order for regional center to provide the services to the home, they say they need to do another assessment. And then that assessment takes a long time. And it's the same person. It's the same person is in the assessment. So, and it's technically public money, right? So how is it that they have to keep going through assessments with different departments of public funding for the same purpose? And it's not getting shared. That just prolongs everything, right? And so to maybe create a system that acknowledged each other's assessments and then picked up their responsibility in the picture might be more helpful, I would think. Letitia, okay, Letitia, I think was next on the hand raising. Are we bringing Letitia in, somebody? Here she is. We're gonna unmute you, Letitia. Oop, you muted yourself again. Hang on. Go.
Okay, I'm here. So I gonna talk from my experience. I'm sorry about my English. It's not so good, but I will try.
You're welcome to speak in Spanish if you want, and then we'll have it translated if you prefer.
Well, let me try in English.
Okay.
I have a kid with autism, and he been 3 years without services from the school because they didn't do the assignments they supposed to be doing. And because all my ignorance about the system, I didn't ask for those assignments because I didn't know. But the first assignment, they see all his needs. And they didn't do an evaluation for the different areas like OT or different areas that he was needing in. So the second year, they give it a device that they say, yes, take it home. But nobody teaches how to use it. He didn't know how to use it. This is the third year, and nobody knows how to do with a device. So that device was coming back and forth home in school, and he didn't do nothing well. So now I asked for an independent evaluation, and seems like the program that they were trying to use with him, that was inappropriate. So how is gonna help the kids if the assignments they do, the evaluations, they're not professionals? They're not good. So those kids are using programs, they're not helping their situation. So how to change that? How to have evaluations more, how you say, appropriate, more professionals, so we can trust the people when they do the evaluations for kids. So that's just my experience, and I know there's a lot of parents that they not even have a device, but we have it, but didn't do nothing good to my son. And it's been 3 years that he's been losing, and he's still not talking. And what can I say? I don't accept, and I'm sorry. I cannot accept, I'm sorry that 3 more important years in my son's life. I'm just disappointed with the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Leticia. And I will say this has been a theme that I've heard, and part of the way that I summarized it in my notes is, first, people are not told what services are available. They have to figure that out themselves. And then once they do figure out what services are available, they're not told how to access them. They have to figure that out themselves. And then once they do figure out how to access them, they're not trained in how to take advantage of the services, like being given a piece of technology and not being trained on how to use it, right? And that is absolutely a theme that has come up. I also want to share with all of you that we are not just doing these conversations to say that we talk to lots of different people. I'm taking notes as we're talking. The DVU team is going to send me notes. The very first agenda item for our committee meeting tomorrow is I'm going to give the committee an overview of the various community engagements like this one that we've been participating in and the themes that have come out of those, because we need your input to inform the recommendations that go into the master plan. So I just wanted to reiterate how important your feedback is. Do we
I
have
see that
other hands?
Yeah, we have hands raised, and real quick, I don't want to miss this one because this is important. Bella writes, literacy should be the goal for everyone. Many of us prefer text-based communication versus communicating with pictures, which is what the school used. Master plan should track access to and progress of literacy goals. We must receive an equitable education. And I think I'm going to piggyback on you, Bella, that a lot of times, even people in the profession, communication specialists, we have this idea that you were given an iPad, it has the basic vocabulary, your needs should be met. And everything is kind of at this basic, really watered down. Functional gets to be a term of basic wants and needs. When for Bella, functional is I got to go to college, I got to start a business, right? That's functional. It's not basic wants and needs. Of course, you should have basic wants and needs, but she's trying to start a business. So the whole idea that we talk about ableism, we set the bar for what is your needs met, that's inappropriate. The bar is high. And I think that speaks to what you're saying, Bella. I have here Nina. You want to go next? And then somebody else is in line. Nina.
Yeah, this has been just so amazing. And I guess I'm going back to something that we sort of started with, but to me has been a theme, and I think it's a theme through everything. And that's kind of the what the oppression of this need for assessments and evaluations that eat up the precious time that people need in getting services. And it kind of, when you were going through, Victor, your experience about like sort of breaking down the kinds of comments and things you're hearing, that part about how to access, what are the services, how to access. In the how to access part, we, you know, at DVU, we're always trying to keep our eye on what could, you know, sort of solution oriented, you know, thinking along, you know, as we are identifying the big areas here. And whether it's dentistry, which, you know, there are these repeated themes, like there are basic things you need. Dentistry, communication, they've been established year after year by families at sometimes great expense, certainly time. And every year we go through the same hell. Every time you need a change, well, you need another assessment. These are things, I think this can be directly addressed, and it's across systems as well. So I feel like that would, knowing that if families knew that you didn't have this, I feel it's like, it's so oppressive, it's so choking, it is such a barrier to constantly have to go through that when in many cases, like in William's case, and so many of these, you know, the person is known to the regional center or the school district for decades, and then to have it all over again for the smallest change. These are things I think, like in the master plan, these, you know, wherever, whether it's big or little, but it's all sort of serving the purpose of how to access and get rid of those barriers. I just feel like that I'm so grateful that you're communicating this. And one of the things that I've learned from just when working on these you know, the communication world, these are like the most amazing people, it's incredible. But you're getting down, it's such a foundational, such a basic need to communicate that it often illustrates a lot of the other problems in the system. You know, it's like really like shines a light on so many other issues. So I'm so grateful that you're here. But if we could get some relief from assessments and evaluations, I could, you know, go for continue to live. I know that from my own son. So thank you.
And you know, I'll just share, you know, this really strikes a chord with me because literally today I was having a conversation about how oftentimes historically marginalized communities, but particularly the disability community, we are not believed when we say, here's what we need. We have to educate people over and over again on what we need. Then we are asked to prove that we really need what we need. And then after we prove it, we are offered other things because they would be less inconvenient to everyone else. We are told, okay, you told us what you needed, you educated us on what you needed, we made you prove that you need what you need. We're going to try to convince you to do something else instead because it might be more convenient for everyone else. And that is just something that needs to stop, right? And I think one of the ways that that shows up is, I think a lot of communities are continuously put in the position and given the burden of having to reprove over and over again that their need is real, right? And that their need is valid, and that they shouldn't need to prove that they need that over and over again.
So that's perfect, Victor. Write that down.
I'll write down my own public comment here.
Christiana wrote, who's in charge? We decide when a needs are met, not some expert who has never met me. Regional centers use medical teams that make decisions that are not part of the IPP team and have never met the person. And Tyler says, I'll piggyback on that. I appreciate that the regional center can fund my access to various experts. Now it's time for them to learn that I'm the expert of my needs and my experience. If it's truly, you're right, Tyler, if it's truly person-centered, then we need to not just make the person in the person-centered chair, but listen to what he just said. Listen to what he needs. That's what person-centered is, right? And let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Tommy for some reason hasn't spoken out loud, but I'm not going to leave that alone, Tommy. But and they're deserving of their support. Yeah. So true, Victor. So I think that's great. Whew, you guys, this is such a great conversation. Victor, I'm so thankful that you were willing to present your shoulders to carry all of this for us. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah,
So,
Carrie's saying, why do we always prove ourselves?
I'm going to go to the last slide just so that it's up on the screen and just share a few things. And we still have some time. So if you gather your thoughts, if you have other input, I really want to hear it. But I did just want to make sure I have the slide up that shows that our next meeting is tomorrow. As we shared, it will be in person in Sacramento, but also there's a virtual option. All of our meetings are public. If you go to our website, which we have here on our screen, you can see the dates of our other committee meetings. We are also working to schedule our work group meetings, which we just launched the first one, and we want to schedule the rest of the work group meetings through the rest of the year and post those on our website. Those are also public. So if there's a work group with a topic that really resonated with you, you're welcome to join. We have public comment periods at all of our work group meetings. And in our committee meeting, we actually have 2 public comment periods. The meeting officially starts at 10, but from 9 to 10, I'm there. I give a recap of what we've done with the master plan, very short 10 minutes, and then the rest of the time is for public comment. And then at the end of the meeting, we offer another opportunity for public comment. So if you think of something tomorrow or later in the week that you didn't share today, you can email us at the email address on the screen here, dsmasterplan@chhs.ca.gov, or you can come to any of our meetings, which all have a public comment period, and offer your comment there. I just wanted to share that, but I also want to leave the slide up on the screen if folks wanted to get that information while we spend some more time hearing other comments that you all have, other suggestions that you all have.
So Aparna, I think that if we can put, excuse me, Aparna on, she had something that she wanted to comment on. Excuse me, sorry. Aparna, I'm gonna maybe help look for.
Oh, hi. Okay. My name is Aparna Kamini, and I am a first-generation immigrant. So I bring that up because I remember what it was like growing up, and my parents were new to this country. And when you're different, you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to be a bother. And when you speak with an accent, it's even more different, right? Now, I've grown up here, so I don't feel that way anymore, but I remember what it was like to be a kid, feeling like you couldn't ask, you shouldn't ask. And I think it was Letitia who was talking about how she trusted the system. And I think for me, when she started speaking, I had to stop myself from crying because the system is, and I hate saying this, disproportionately impacting people who are quote unquote disenfranchised communities, right? Or marginalized communities. And then you compound marginalized based on ethnicity with being disabled, right? And you don't want to be a bother, you don't know what you're supposed to ask for, and then culturally there's so much shame where there shouldn't be, there is, right? So I bring that up because when you actually look at some of the policies, DDS comes out with directives all the time saying, hey, we want to address racial disparity, we want to address ethnic disparity, but you're not. For example, and I'm a person with autism, right? Low support needs, but I was recently diagnosed with autism, and I bring that up, and I decided to become a vendor. Now, in trying to provide services for people with disabilities, what I found is if you're an FMS provider for self-determination, you get paid like 4 to 5 times more than if you're an FMS provider for participant-directed services. So that means social rec, even, a self-determination, general supports. But when you think about who are the people that are able to get into self-determination, they're not immigrants, right? They're people who have the time, who are comfortable advocating. That's not typically immigrants who come here first generation or who speak with an accent, right? And again, I say that not to marginalize anyone, but to empathize, because that's my background. And we're not acknowledging, just by having a payment disparity, you're creating 2 tiers. People who are comfortable advocating, who are knowledgeable, who have experience, they're going to go into that self-determination. People who don't have that are going to be stuck in the regular program, and then they're not going to have anyone to provide services like FMS for social rec, because the payment reimbursement rates are just different. For the same thing, there's a huge difference. So you're almost creating this 2-tier system, and that's not fair. That's not okay. Even though you say you want to address these disparities, how are you doing that when you're not paying comparatively? Sorry, I feel so, when Letitia was speaking, it just really struck me because she's relying on people. She's not knowing. So if she's trusting these people, what they're telling her, what they're saying, what she's reading, and that's not the case. They're not being fair, quite frankly.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Eunice said she said something, but I don't see what she said. So I don't know, Eunice, if you want to come on or if you want to type it in there, and I'll read it for you either way. Well, Victor, there's a lot of love coming in here, a lot of appreciation.
There's one more hand up. I don't know.
Is there?
Aurelie Solano.
I don't see it, but okay.
Aurelie, go ahead.
Why don't I see it? That's weird.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Voy a hacer mi comentario en español porque me siento más cómoda y puedo ser más fluida en lo que voy a comentar. En primer lugar, muchas gracias al señor Duron, que está, primero que nada, a DBU, muchas gracias por haber invitado al señor Duron a esta presentación. Mi comentario va a ser lo más breve posible, pero sí es bastante importante lo que voy a comentar y necesitamos de verdad la ayuda del señor Duron con respecto a esta situación. Por ejemplo, los sistemas que a veces, cuando las familias en representación de nuestros seres queridos aplicamos para un servicio, nos tratan mal, nos tratan desproporcionadamente mal. No tienen el profesionalismo o la ética o el tacto para tratar. Ya es suficiente, las familias sufrimos con las situaciones, los desafíos de la deshabilidad de nuestros seres queridos y es injusto que nos traten con bochornos o con negaciones o que hagan los procesos burocráticos lo más lentos posibles. Otra cosa, ¿cómo lidiaríamos en un futuro una vez que el plan maestro se llegue a su punto final para poder implementarlo? ¿Cómo qué cambio pudiera haber en cuanto a las quejas que sometemos 4731 a los centros regionales, ¿por qué no hay suficiente ética y profesionalismo, responsabilidad, honestidad y transparencia de las personas de los centros regionales cuando sometemos una queja? ¿Por qué después se la cobran con retaliación y con castigarnos, con hacer los procesos muchísimos más lentos? No debería ser así. Si las quejas se ponen, se someten es para ver una mejoría, no para que la situación se empeore en contra de la persona, del cliente, por decirlo así, porque así le llaman los centros regionales. Pero eso sería mi comentario. Tengo muchísimo que compartir, pero sé que muchas familias han compartido bastante de lo que a mí también me sucede. Y solamente quisiera decirle al señor Durón, gracias por escucharnos. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes y gracias a usted por su comentario y por
Thank you.
darnos su tiempo y su opinión.
So I'm gonna, now I see more people chiming in. We only have our translators till 5:30, and we have a couple of announcements that we have to make, and so we have 2 minutes. I'm so sorry. So for those of you who have your hand raised, if you can type it in the chat will go to Victor, so that he can then read through there and pull out all your wonderful words of wisdom. Don't forget to include your solutions, because that's where the action's going to come from, right?
Yes.
So
Shall I
again,
stop sharing screen, Darlene? Would that help?
perfect. That'd be great. Thank you so much, Victor. So much.
Thank you to all of you.
We were so excited when we saw your email back that you wanted to talk with us and jump on this. This was so perfect. Now, you might want to know, DVU has been putting together a self-advocate speakers bureau. And I wanted you guys to know that it is being launched. And you can find it at our website now. So for those of you who have been a part of the Self-Advocate Speakers Bureau, you'll get word tomorrow. But on our website, whoops, hang on, bring it over. Okay, there we go. On our website, you're going to be able to see, hang on, yay. Under programs, go down here, and Judy, where is it?
Probably need to clear the cache.
Is also in the chat.
It's where, Judy? It's okay. Hang on, let me get there. See, we got to figure these things out. Okay, let's do this. Take the chat, take it from the chat.
You want me to share my screen?
If you can get that page up, yeah.
Yeah, I have it up.
Oh, perfect. Okay, share yours. I just want people to see it. Okay, so on our website, under programs, you're going to see Self-Advocate Speakers Bureau, and this is it. You're going to hear, there's a little bit of a description of what the purpose is of this, and then you're going to click on Find a Speaker, or you can keep scrolling down and you'll see all of you who have participated in this already and have sent in your information. If you have participated and you haven't sent in your information, let us know and we'll make sure you get on there. But for community members, it's an opportunity to find people in your community or virtually who can speak on a given topic and be a part of the conversation, however that works out for you. And we're not, they don't work for us at DVU. We're supporting these individuals to go out there and make change. And that's our role on this and in this. If you or you know someone who would want to be a part of this, we're starting another Speakers Bureau. November 13th is, November 13th will be orientation. So get on our website and so that you get an email blast. And you'll see when we are sending out the applications for that. That will be in like September, the applications will come out. So we're really excited. There's going to be an email blast tomorrow announcing this, but there's so many wonderful voices here that are ready and available and have amazing personal experience stories, and they are the experts. So
many of these folks are on the master plan or on a work group. I'm just noticing that, Victor.
Me too.
Yeah, so
many of them are, many. Okay, great. So there's that, and then we have the ambassadors as well. Gilda, you want to go real fast? We're over time, I'm sorry.
I see the time. I'll be quick. Hi, everyone. I'm Gilda Duron, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Leadership Training at Disability Voices United. And I wanted to share that we have applications open right now for Disability Voices United Ambassador Program. And our ambassadors really are crucial to our mission at DVU. And we are seeking clients and family members or family members served from the following regional centers: Alta California Regional Center, Golden Gate Regional Center, Central Valley Regional Center, North Los Angeles Regional Center, North Los Angeles County Regional Center, Tri-Counties Regional Center. If you go to our website, I see Michaela dropped the flyers in the chat if anyone's interested in applying or sharing with your network. We have applications open until Friday, August 30th. And we also have open office hours if anyone wants to ask questions about our ambassador program, and those are listed on our website. So thank you, Victor, for being here. And yes, so please share the information about our ambassador program. Thank you, Darlene.
Thanks, Gilda. All right, everybody, we will see you next month or on Thursday at the LCC meeting, if that's your next stop. Thanks. Thank you, Victor.